everybody, welcome back to another episode. Got the soft tail up on the lift here again. There's a couple of things I still need to do to this bike before I put the chopper up on the lift, because the chopper is going to be up here for quite a long time and this will be the only bike I'll have. So I thought I need to get a couple of more things done to this thing and then I'll be able to put the chopper on and break it down. So today, what I want to do is I want to lower this bike 2 inches. So I've got a 2-inch drop for the rear shocks, and then I've got a 2-inch drop for the forks. So we're going to go ahead and jump on in and just show you how that's done. What we've got here is a couple of different kits just that I threw into one box. And this is a seal kit for your forks. Once you're into your forks that deep, you definitely want to put new seals on there. So that's a good thing to have. The front, you've got four washers, 2 long springs, 2 short springs, and a couple of pieces of PVC. I've already cut down one per the instructions, and we'll be cutting down the other one just to show you how to measure that. And then of course we've got some fork oil here, and that'll take care of the front end. The rear shocks, you've got all these Heim joints and grade 8 hardware, and these kind of like a coupler adapter, and obviously we'll be going through all of that. It's got some washers, some O-rings and stuff like that. So I'll go ahead and explain everything and all the steps as we go along and do it. Let's go ahead and take a measurement before we do anything to this. Looks like it's at even 6 inches right there. So this is probably 5 13/16. I would call that 6 inches right on the nose. All right, go ahead and jam a jack underneath here. We made a scissor lift jack on one of my older videos, past videos, and this thing's gonna fit in here just fine. Make sure you're leaving enough room underneath here so you can grab a wrench and get the hardware out. See what that looks like. Oh yeah, plenty. All right, coming on down here. Oh, that's probably enough right there. Oh yeah. All right, cool. Okay, looking underneath the bike here, of course you got the lift right there. This is 1 shock, 2 shocks, and the hardware, 2 bolts on that side, 2 bolts right here. Oh, this is going to be a long one. Wow, this is a tight squeeze, man. Shoot. Oh, wow. Hang on. There we go. Dang. Oh. Boy, she is just up there. There it goes. Gee whiz, that was a tight squeeze right there. Woo! Okay. Right on. Now we just gotta get this one up here. It's really tight. Oh yeah. No problemo. Just like that. Well, I've got my shock in my hydraulic press here, and I was looking at this ramrod. It's just flat on the bottom here, and of course my shock is rounded on the top, and I sure don't want when it's under load to deflect off on either side. So what I came up with is just a little safety precaution here, just a chunk of exhaust that I found in my exhaust pile. Drew a hole through it, stick a bolt through the eyelet, And that way, if it does deflect off when it's under load, at least it'll stay in and they'll both stay together and it won't go shooting across the room. So let's give that a shot. All right, just took the load. And there's my C-clip. And we're just going to reach in here, trying to keep our hands free of this thing in case it does decide to shift on us. And just try to wiggle this C-clip loose. Almost had it. Come on there, little guy. There we go. And there it is. Now we'll go ahead and relieve the pressure. We'll go ahead and take this guy off here. Now that everything's free, we can just go ahead and pull this up. And it's just like a shock for your car, really. Just inside this tube that has a gigantic coil in here. This one looks like it's in pretty good shape. Ugh. Boy, howdy, it's really dusty in there. Pretty grimy. You can tell the way it was sitting from all this caked on dirt. It was down this way, and I'm not sure if you can see inside there, but it is pretty grimy. Okay, so the grimy area I was talking about is right here, and this is the bottom of the shock, how it was sitting inside that housing. So let me just rotate this up and just show you all of that right there. The other shock didn't have any of this, so I'm thinking that I've got a leak, and it's going to be kind of hard to tell because the bike's got two shocks, so you can't really tell if one's failed, if the other one's working fine. Plus they have that gigantic coil on the inside, so I'm not sure if I would know if it's failed or not. I could wipe this off and then check it in 6 months, but if I've already leaked all the oil out of there and then there's no grime like this in 6 months, that doesn't really tell me anything either. So maybe I'll just replace these, maybe not right now, but down the road. Go ahead and put your shock right down into your vise like this, and then grab a big old crescent wrench here and loosen up this top nut on the bottom right now. Then you're going to reach in here. This has two slots on either side. Go ahead and get a really good bite on this, and you're going to unloosen it this way. And once you get it loosened enough, the whole shock should start to spin. Come on now. Well, this one's stubborn. Let me see if I can get this yeah, get that collar free. It was kind of like a jam nut, I think. So now we'll take this back up and see if we can get this thing to start. There it goes. Wow, there must be a ton of Loctite in here. They usually don't give you this much resistance. You can usually just spin them off with your hand, but this one, they probably dumped a whole can of Loctite in here. Let me take a look. There we go. Jeez Louise. Oh yeah. Wow, okay. That thing's packed full of Loctite, either that or thread tape, who knows. And then you can just spin this collar off of here. And that nut, well, you're not going to use this piece anyway, but I'm sure you can see inside here. Let's go ahead and take a zoom in here. All kinds of Loctite or thread tape or something in here. So I'll need to chase those threads and make sure everything's cleaned out. You know, these original pieces aren't bad, and I may want to reuse them or sell them in the future, but these were so gummed up with Loctite or thread tape or whatever, I'm going to need to chase them. And I'm going to show you how to make your own chase, whether it's a bolt chaser or a nut chaser, just out of your random hardware at your shop. Go ahead and dig around into your nut and bolt pile and find the right thread pitch that's going to thread into there real nice. So now that I have the right bolt, let me show you how to make it into a thread chaser. Grab some rubber vise helpers and put your bolt down in here. Okay, right around here we're going to cut a groove right in there. Okay, and here's that bolt with that cut. You see how I cut it to where as you thread it in this way, it's going to clean those threads off and throw them right inside that pocket. And I'll go ahead and demonstrate that on the piece that we were looking at earlier. And also, you can also do this with nuts. So if you need to clean off a bolt, see how this is cut to where you would want to thread this way, or you can flip it and you can thread it this way. What's going to happen is it's going to shave all the stuff off those threads and it'll shoot it right into this groove right here. Let's go ahead and see this thing in action. Oh wow, it's actually going in further right now just with my fingers. But let's go ahead and zap this down in here. Gosh, is that all of it? That should go down to about there. Let's go ahead and put a mark on it. There. Oh. Alright, hang on, let me put a wrench on this. Oh yeah, I can go down further. Maybe that, oh yeah, maybe that drill was just, oh, now we're cutting through it. Oh yeah, I think that drill, maybe that battery needed to be swapped out. Okay, now I think we're at the bottom. Now let's see what kind of stuff we've got in this thing. A lot of chalky stuff. Boy, the threads look really good. Matter of fact, it all fell out in the bottom of this thing here. Look at that. Well, that's quite a lot. Let's try this again now. All the way to the bottom. No problem. Very cool. Well, we've got everything cleaned up the best we can. We've got our outer shell here, plastic sleeve, clean up the spring, and clean up the shock. And just to note, there is a snap ring, a little C-clip ring right here that keeps this washer on its shoulder. And you'll just want to make sure you have this little rubber O-ring here and that everything else looks good. The threads look great and everything. You're going to be reusing the nut that was on the bottom of that collar, and you'll be reusing the collar as well. So this is my lowering kit from Burley brand. It came with great instructions to help you set this whole thing up. Basically what you're going to be doing is just replacing the stock non-adjustable end with this heim joint adjustable piece. I'll grab my drill here and just zip this thing down. There we go. Now just thread on the adjuster nut all the way down to the jam nut. Okay, then you want to reuse the large nut that came off the original piece and thread that onto your new adjuster all the way to the top. Then thread on your spring collar till it's just about flush, but that's going to move around as you put this thing on anyway. Before you do that, you want to install some high strength Loctite onto your threads of your shock. Go ahead and thread that on there, just like so. And then you're going to take your jam nut, you're going to spin the spring plate against that, and then you're going to take your jam nut and tighten it against that. So what that's going to look like is, put this in the vise like so, tighten that down, and then go up here. So that's kind of what it's going to look like assembled at its lowest factory setting. And if we grab the original one, that's about where the other one was as well. Well, we're almost done reassembling this thing. So I just found out that there's a smaller opening on this side of the spring and a larger opening on that side of the spring. The only reason why I knew is when I was trying to reassemble this thing, my little piece of plastic would not go in here. I couldn't figure out what was going on. And so I just flipped it just to see if there was going to be a little bit more space in here. And it just drops in like a champ. As a matter of fact, I even have space right here. There you go. There's a little tip that I didn't even know about. This little collar here has the shoulder on top and this extruded part that goes down. So we'll go ahead and drop it in like that. Then there's a rubber piece where its extruded part is going to go up and its shoulder is going to touch the shoulder of the other piece. Then go ahead and take your little cup, turn it upside down, and drop it down, and then lifting from the bottom, just push that up, and that's exactly how it's going to look, just like that. Put it down like that, no problem. Grab your shock that we just put together, grab this washer, slide it up to the snap ring that we were just talking about, and just drop that guy right in there and nestle it in. There we go. Whoa, man, I just totally bent my... Hang on. Well, I've never shied away from showing my mistakes to help other people. And not that this was really a mistake, but when I was pressing this thing in, the side of my spring collar grabbed the edge of this little bucket and just rolled it in on me. If you can believe that. So now I have to go over to the bench and try to get this thing to where it looks good. What an unfortunate thing to have happen. However, it's good to bring these things up on these videos. So as I was pressing this in, or attempting to for the second time, I noticed that this can, even though it's slightly under pressure, was still able to move around. And as I was coming down, as I am now, I realized as I was having my fingers on it before, I mean, look at this. I can move this whole, it's probably because of my whole press here, but look at this. You see the whole can moving? So it probably wasn't my fault at all. It probably was, you know, as it is now, forward instead of being back like this, and it just caught that edge and just rolled it in by the power of the hydraulic press. So I just need to make sure, without pinching my fingers, just to make sure that it's lined up here, because there's so much movement in the base of my press here. And look at that, now it's going in no problem. So I'll grab my handle now and just put it in all the way. Slide that in there and snap. Why don't we just go ahead and put the open part of the snap ring right there. Perfect. So now the opening of the snap ring is here, and the whole rest of the trough or indent or whatever you want to call it is grabbing the the ring. Perfect. I want to take a measurement of this heim joint before I put it under the bike. That way I know how many threads I have when I'm unthreading this to lower my bike. So essentially when you unthread this heim joint and make this thing longer, you're lowering the bike. So right now, if I put my tape measure at the base of the swivel, I've got, looks like an even 2 inches, which is great. And just a rule of thumb, whatever size, whatever diameter, outer diameter bolt you're using, in this case it's 1/2 inch, that should be the minimum of how much it's threaded into whatever it's threaded into. So 1/2 inch. From the swivel to the base of the jam nut should be no more than 1.5 inches. This is pretty decent right here. It's not all the way out like I was talking about earlier, and it's not at a stock setting. So I'm going to try it at this setting here. I'm going to set both of my shocks at that setting, and then we'll put it under the bike, and we'll lower the bike down on its weight, and then we'll take a measurement like we did on the frame before, and we'll see just how low it is. Okay, I've already got the other side up there, so let's go ahead and put this side in. So I'm just going to load up my bolt with one washer and one O-ring first. There we go. And then before I push it through to the other side, I have to also then get my O-ring ready and get my O-ring up there, make sure it stays in place as I get my washer up in there. Okay, and then I can push my bolt in just a little bit further to try to grab onto those two things. I'm literally doing this just by feel right now. I can't see anything at the vantage point I'm at now. And then you also have to put a spacer at the end of that. Back my bolt out just a little bit. There's the spacer. And can I push my bolt through yet? There we go. Oh, I actually got it, I think. Oh, maybe. Yeah, I'm gonna have to either raise or lower. I did get it started, but I'm gonna have to mess around with the jack here. All right, I got it started, and just gonna thread this in. Okay, this lowering kit takes some patience and some dexterity. I've got my mirror right up here, a little O-ring right here, and this little O-ring right here have to go around the swivel point of the heim joint. If it drops down onto the surface of the swivel of the heim joint, it'll be pinched in between the swivel and the washer. So you just have to make sure, what I've done is I made sure that the back one was lined up, and then I pushed the heim joint towards the washer. That way it couldn't go anywhere. And then as I was holding that, using my little pick right here, I had to get this one pushed up from the bottom and then pushed that washer against it, held everything together, and then when I put my wrench on, I just pushed against all of the washers and everything, and then I was able to tighten it up. Before I lower my bike, I want to tighten up my shock mount bolts, and so I looked at my repair manual, and you can either buy a little extension for your torque wrench here. They suggest that you weld a socket onto some kind of an open end, a box end, or a flare nut wrench, either one of those. Or your base torque is going to be between 115 and 130. I always meet in the middle, so you know, 120, 125. Let's see how this is going to work. Oh, it moved. Oh man, that thing looks like it's going to walk off of that thing. Oh man, that's weird. That's super weird, man. God, what a hassle, man. Oh, wow. Well, I can tell you that's definitively lower because I can't even get my jack out. I'm going to have to slide my other jack underneath here to hopefully give it a little bit of a boost so I can get my other jack out. Let's see. There we go. Now, let's just take that off. Now we'll lower this down. There we go. What do you say we lower the front end of this bike now 2 inches? Okay, well I've got the turning indicators removed. I've got my tool bag up on the top removed, and I've got my brake caliper removed and hung up somewhere so that the brake line isn't just getting pulled on and getting thrashed. And now I'm going to break loose my axle nut. And then we'll go to the other side and we'll take off the pinch nuts off the a pinch clamp. And we'll just go ahead and take these guys off here. Ugh. Just going to take a look at everything here as you take it off. Make sure it's all looking good. Look at that. I've got this jack set up just right to where I can just pull the axle out. So when you pull that out and you roll your wheel out, keep in mind which spacer goes on which side. This one's probably going to fall out over on the other side, or not. And we're just going to kind of slide it around. What I also like to do is I like throwing my axle back into my wheel with the spacers where they're supposed to go. And then I'll take my axle nut washer and lock washer and just stick them on there so I don't lose them. And there you go. Now it's all set up like it's supposed to be. And I'll put that off to the side. Alright, so there is a little screw at the very bottom of your lower fork leg that you can remove and slowly drain your fork oil out of that. However, I think it's just easier to just leave that in place, and you're going to have to remove all of this anyway. So I just remove it and then tip it over into a drain bucket and let it all pour out quickly. So let's go ahead and take this top nut right here off. Be careful of your chrome. I like to have my bars kicked over all the way. That way I know that I won't be fighting against holding the bars. Of course, you want to hold your bike. Oh, that was actually kind of nice and easy to crack free right there. All right, so we've got a large washer and it looks like a rubber washer as well down in there. It actually looks like it's in really good shape. It's not, God, it looks, I wonder if somebody's been in here recently or before I bought the bike. That looks brand new. All right, cool. And next we're just gonna reach back here and loosen up this pinch bolt. Let her come down to about, say, there, and then tighten up that pinch bolt again and allow your triple tree to help hold this thing. Put our wrench on here and let's hold on to the bike. Oh yeah, no problem. Oh, look at that, I can turn it with my hand. That's awesome. All right, let me throw a glove on here and we'll take that off. All right, so when you take this off, just remember that there is a spring in here, and you just want to have your hand on top of this as you're unscrewing it so that it doesn't shoot across the shop. And just take it off like this. Pop any time now. There it goes. And there it is. Not that big of a deal. There's your spring right there. And a little O-ring on this guy. And now we'll go ahead and take this fork leg out. Just gonna undo this pinch clamp again. And just slide it on out. No big deal. Now you can just reach inside here and just pull this spring all the way out. Set it inside your tub and then just pour all this oil out. Once the majority of it is out there, you can just go ahead and pump it a couple of times. It's pretty decent. You'll drain the rest of it out, of course, as you take this thing apart. So you can just let it sit here and drain if you'd like. One other thing I want to talk to you about with the pinch clamp is that, not sure if you can see, but cast into this pinch clamp, it says out right on one side of it. And that's obviously on the outside of the fork. When you take this off, just swing it over to the side and then just put your hardware back on. And then you can get to the bolt that's down inside here, and it'll be out of your way, but it'll still be in the correct orientation. So when you put it back on your bike, you'll be good to go. All right, we've got your 6mm Allen in here, and we're just gonna go ahead and zap this off of here. Okay, wasn't expecting that to drop out. All right. Okay, I wasn't expecting that to drop out. We got a good trough in here. Just have to work off. Well, here we are at the top of the fork seal. And there's a little snap ring that goes in here. And looks like this is the end of it right here. So we just kind of lift this guy up here. God, it looks brand spanking new. It sure does help to have those rubber dust covers on there. But looks like I just put it in from the kit. Wow. Okay, now we're just going to go ahead and pull the upper tube from the lower tube now that we have the snap ring out, and just pull that seal right out of there. Just like that. Okay, well, we've got our upper fork tube here disassembled from the lower, and what you've got is you've got your fork oil seal right here, little washer that slides up on that, and we're just going to take this washer and this gasket, and we're just going to slide them off the end of the tube here, just like this, and there we go. Okay, putting this back together, it goes in the same order. The only difference, well, not difference, but the only thing I'd mention is this washer right here has a softer edge to one side and a more sharper flat edge on the other side. And since it's going to be riding up against this oil seal, I'd rather have the soft edge against the oil seal. So I'm going to put the hard and sharp edge down first, and then I'm going to put the oil seal with all of the printing and everything on the top, and that's going to go on next, just like that, and just slide it all the way down. This little cap that goes on top of this little dampener can still go in here. Here's the little spring action, and then I can take the dampener and just take it and drop it in from the other side, like so, and I can see that the little guy comes out just like that, like it's supposed to, right? And I can just take the cap right here and just push up. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble everything like that. Once again, we've got our little cap on the end of our plunger, and our dampener, excuse me. We're just going to go ahead and slide this on in all the way before we turn it upside down. Make sure I can see that little cap inside there. Now we'll set it down on the table, and now we've got our seal right here ready to be driven down in, and you just want to drive it down enough to where you can see the recess where that snap ring is going to go into. So once again, this is just 2-inch automotive pipe. You can also go and get 2-inch PVC. A little bit further to go. You can see that the seal now is just below that inner groove that we can now put the snap ring on and then put our dust boot back on the top. And we'll drop our little clip down here. Try to push it into place until you hear it snap. There we go. Cool. Now we'll slide that boot cover over and just kind of press it into place just like that. Now I'm going to attempt to grab some threads on that plunger. Try to hold this in there. We're just going to go ahead and give this a good snug. It's like 18 foot-pounds, so that's good. I don't want to strip that thing out. Okie dokie. Well, according to the directions here, mine's a 1999 FXST, and you can see it's the third from the bottom. So let's go ahead and make sure that my spacers are 4.5 inches long. Both of them 4.5. So let's go ahead and drop this stuff in. Okay, so now they want you to have the fork leg fully extended. You're going to go ahead and grab the longest spring, and you're going to put this in first. Then you're going to grab the shortest spring, you're going to step that in second. Then you're going to grab one washer, make sure that it's flat in there, okay? Then you're going to grab your little PVC, and then another washer. And then you're going to put your cap on. So let's go ahead and try to jingle all that into place. Before we do that, I forgot, this top cap has an O-ring on here and a brand new one comes in the kit. So we might as well take advantage of that and take this old one off and roll this new one back on here. Just make sure there's no grit or grime in there. It actually looks really nice and clean. And we'll just roll the new one into place. Looks good. So let's go ahead and take a look at, I thought it was going to be a different color. That's interesting. 10, 11, right there, and then 0.2, sure, there's going to be so much residual left over in this jug. The 0.2 is not even really going to get in there, so I'm calling that good. That's just over, like a hair over 11. And I've got my funnel right here. Let's go ahead and dump this oil right down inside. Try to get that 0.2 in there. There's that 0.2 I was telling you about, still in the jug. I've got my washer down there, my PVC pipe right here, my other washer on the cap, and I'm just going to see if I can't muscle this thing down in here. I got my gloves on here just in case my hands get all tore up. And I'm pretty sure that these threads aren't going to grab until after I'm down in past the O-ring here. So let's push that down towards the O-ring and just start to spin it and see if I can grab any threads on these things. I may need to get some thicker gloves because this thing is brutal. I'm not sure if I got any. Oh, I think I might have got some threads. Oh, did I get it already? Oh, that wasn't that bad. Let's see if I can do it by hand here. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, baby. That's no problem. Oh. Ooh, almost. Oh, yeah. It's all the way down. Right on. Let me just loosen up this pinch bolt. There we go. And then just slide her up on in. I've got my torque wrench right here. And I've got it set for 35. There she is. And now, just thread everything down. Make sure that washer is centered. There we go. All right, that's seated there, and just kind of give it a little, actually, that's seated right there. Just a little boop, boop, boop. There we go. Awesome. We are almost done. All I have to do is the other leg, and then we'll put the front tire back on and lower this down on both tires and take a final measurement. The only difference between this leg, excuse me, and the right leg is that the right leg has a removable end cap that pinches the axle. And you can easily access the little Allen head bolt that you need to remove to get the dampener out. Well, this left leg doesn't have that, and instead it has a very deep recessed hole where you can see the Allen way down in there. It's not standard. It's a 6mm Allen head bolt. You definitely want to either go purchase an extended socket Allen key like this, or make one. Hey, one trick I'd like to pass on to you when you're trying to put this bolt back on to that dampener, take the old spring and stick it up there. That way it pushes the dampener and holds it in place. Then you put your spring down on the table. You can go ahead and let the upper leg just relax like that, because the spring is keeping the dampener in place. And then you can go up and you can put your bolt in. Don't forget, when you're installing your dampener, to put this little spring on your dampener when you install it. There she is. So the front pinch bolt torque setting is 30 to 35. Okay, 30 to 35. I always go higher on stuff like this. So 35. Let's do the other side. Let me make sure I'm doing this right. That seems like a hell of a lot more than 35. That seems like a lot more than 35. Hey everybody, time out for an actual serious tip. I was just trying to torque up my pinch bolts on my forks, and my torque wrench was just not popping. And it got to the point where it's like, there's no way with this long of an arm that I'm not getting 35. I should have been popping 35 a long time ago. So instead of just continually torquing it, hoping to get a pop, I stopped. And what I did is, I came over to my hardware and just put a nut onto a bolt, and then just put the bolt in the vise and tried 35 on that, just to see what it felt like. Well, it didn't pop. Matter of fact, it rounded the nut around in my vise. We're going to do 10 pounds, 10 foot-pounds. Right there. Feel that? Right there. I'm using 2 fingers on this thing. So now, let's go up to 30. I was actually doing 35, so let's do that. I was doing 35 on that pinch bolt. So let's do 35. Shouldn't be much more than this. Dude, it's not popping, man. I'm either threading, I think I'm stripping the threads of the nut, actually. Oh, I am. That's what gave. Maybe every now and then just do this test. That wouldn't be a bad idea. The first reading that I read that was 60 to 65 was for a Springer. It's only 50 for a non-Springer. So let's see if we can get 50 out of this thing. Let's not have 2 torque wrenches break in one day. There we go. And that feels like a good honest 50 to me. One more thing, since we've been talking about torque wrenches here today, is before you put your torque wrench away when you're done using it, make sure to set your wrench back to 0. That way your spring isn't under load the whole time between now and the next time you use it. Well, we got the bike back up on the lift. So at the very back here, looks like we've got about 4.5. At the frame here, we've got about 4 3/4. And right about here, we've got an even 5. Right on. This feels really good. I'm not sure if it's a 2-inch drop, but it's definitely a drop. I can't wait to take this thing out and ride it around, see what the ride feels like, if I have to tighten up the shock or the dampener or the preload, and play with that a little bit to see if it's too soft or too hard. But until the next video, thanks a lot for tuning in. Take care.